My eldest is 30, and my youngest just turned 26. They've never been alike, not even as kids. My eldest always did things his own way. He was intelligent, no doubt, but independent to a fault. He didn't want to follow in my footsteps or take over the family business. Instead, he chose to study engineering and made it clear he wanted to carve his own path. So I told him if that was what he wanted, he'd need to pay for it on his own. He did, took multiple jobs, supported himself through school. Years later, when he came back and asked for work, I let him in, gave him a role managing one of the smaller branches of the family business. I figured maybe he'd finally understood the value of what we built. Still, I always knew the real successor would be my youngest. My youngest, in contrast, walked the path I laid out for him, studied business, took interest in the company, and stuck close to the family. He had the instincts and the drive. It was always clear he was the one who would eventually take over. Then came Angie. She was an intern at our company, young and driven, the kind of woman you notice. My eldest started dating her, and within a couple years, they got engaged. I supported it, as any father would. They seemed like a stable couple. That changed when my eldest had to travel abroad for a few weeks for work. During that time, Angie and my youngest began working closely. Something sparked between them more than just proximity. My youngest eventually confessed that he had feelings for her. It wasn't a fling, and when Angie told me she felt the same way, I realized this wasn't something I could stop. They kept things quiet at first. They were planning to come clean, break things off with my eldest the right way. But life doesn't always wait for the perfect moment. My eldest came home early, walked in on them, in his bed. The aftermath was explosive. There was a fight physical. Police got involved. Both of my sons were arrested that night. When I got the call, I made a decision. I bailed out my youngest and left my eldest in holding. He needed to cool off. I told myself it was the right thing. When I went to see him the next day, I told him point blank, his brother and Angie loved each other. He needed to accept it and move on. He looked at me with something I hadn't seen in years, pure seething rage. He didn't say a word, just turned his back on me. It was one of his uncles, my late wife's brother, who ended up bailing him out. I didn't fight it. Let him do what he wanted. Not long after that, my eldest was gone, vanished, packed his things and disappeared without a word. He drained what was left of his account, or so he thought. Turns out, while he was in jail, my youngest and Angie had already gotten into their joint accounts and left him with exactly $1. One single dollar. I won't lie, it was harsh, maybe even too far, but Angie claimed she was entitled to her share after everything he said to her the night he found them. My youngest told me it was for closure, that they needed to cut all ties and make a clean start. Maybe it was about power, maybe pain. I didn't ask questions. Now, weeks later, my eldest hasn't been heard from. He's completely off the radar. Told one of his cousins not to give out his location. Meanwhile, my youngest and Angie are still together, living under one roof and planning for the future. He's back at my side in the company, and when the time comes, he'll take the reins. I know how this sounds, but I did what I thought was right. I stood by the son who stayed loyal to the family legacy, even when it got messy. Maybe I lost one son in the process, but I gained something else, a future for everything I've built. Update 1. It's been a few months. No word from my eldest. It's been a couple of months since everything happened, and there's still been no word from my eldest son. He completely disappeared after everything with Angie and his brother. No calls, no messages, nothing, not even a trace on social media. It's like he wiped himself off the map. Since then, word has gotten around. People are talking, and not always kindly. The version most people heard was that my youngest stole his brother's fiancée and that he cheated with her while she was still engaged. A few of their old mutual friends weren't shy about it either. Some of them went online and started dragging my eldest, calling him unstable, possessive, even abusive. To be honest, it got ugly fast. Angie gave her side of the story too, said she felt trapped in the relationship, that my eldest was emotionally abusive and controlling, and that my youngest stepped in when things got too hard. Claimed he supported her emotionally, and over time they realized they were in love. It was convincing, emotional. Some people believed her, some didn't. Even members of our own family started asking questions. You could see it in their faces. They were polite but suspicious. Still, my youngest stuck to the same version every time. Calm, collected, consistent. He said he never meant to hurt his brother, but that feelings can't be helped, and Angie deserved better than what she had. But here's the thing, my eldest hasn't said a word. No defense, no clarification, No online post, no message to the family, just silence. Too much silence. Even people who initially sided with my youngest are starting to wonder. Some of our clients, long-term ones who worked closely with my eldest, asked about him. A few of them even brought up their version of events, stuff they'd heard through the grapevine, and it wasn't flattering toward my youngest. Despite the noise, my focus now is on the future. My youngest and Angie are officially engaged. They had a small announcement dinner, and now the wedding planning has begun. That's my priority, moving forward, supporting them as they build their life together. What's done is done. The past is the past. Update 2. Everything's falling apart. My eldest son came back with a vengeance. Things have taken a serious turn and not in the direction I expected. First, I started noticing something strange with the business. I couldn't access the online accounts. Bank logins were blocked. Then the bank itself reached out accounts frozen, pending legal action. At first, I thought it was some kind of mistake until the legal paperwork arrived. My eldest son reappeared not in person, but through one of the most brutally efficient lawyers I've ever come across. His name's Steve, and he's the type of lawyer who doesn't just build a case, he leaves nothing standing. Apparently, my eldest still had legal ownership of a share in the business. Documentation going back years. Something I honestly forgot about, since he never exercised his rights. Until now. He's demanding full restitution. He wants out of the business and compensation for everything we did to him, the betrayal, the stolen finances, the public humiliation. And he's selling his share, whether we like it or not. No negotiation. The paperwork was served in the middle of his younger brother and Angie's engagement party, right as we were about to raise a toast. But it didn't stop there. He's taking Angie to court not just for clearing out their joint account, but for stealing from his personal bank account as well. Then, the real bombshell, he's pressing charges against his own brother, my youngest son, for what he did. Apparently, he's going public with the fact that he caught them together, in their own bed, while they were still engaged. The fight that broke out wasn't random. It was personal, brutal, and now legal. The engagement party turned into chaos. We had used the business account to pay for the venue and vendors. But with everything frozen, none of the payments went through. Some vendors refused to proceed. Others left mid-event. Guests were whispering, people started asking questions, and then the server arrived with a stack of legal documents. It was humiliating, everything unraveling in real time. Days later, the ripple effects haven't stopped. Friends, family, and even some of our long-term business clients are calling, trying to make sense of what they've heard. A lot of people who believed my youngest and Angie's side of things, that my eldest was abusive and unstable, are now starting to reconsider. His silence is gone, and he's fighting back with precision. Angie and my youngest tried to fight the narrative again. They made a public post, calling him bitter and vindictive, even naming him directly and accusing him of trying to destroy their happiness. That didn't go well. They received a cease and desist order within hours. Behind closed doors, my youngest and Angie are panicking. You can see it, hear it. They're not as confident as they were before, but I keep telling them we'll get through this, that it'll settle. Still, the damage is done, and this time it's not going away quietly. Update 3. The web he left behind. It's been weeks of fallout, and I'm only now beginning to understand how deep this really goes. Thankfully, I still had my personal account. I always kept a separate one in case of emergencies, and now it's keeping everything afloat. But the company? That's a different story. I reached out to our longtime corporate lawyer, an old friend, and he's been working around the clock to undo the damage. But the deeper we dig, the worse it gets. Turns out, my eldest was responsible for sourcing and acquiring the software system that runs almost every part of our business: payroll, client management, inventory, invoicing, all of it. What I didn't realize was just how exclusive this system was. Apparently, it's a prototype from a tech startup that's only recently started making noise in the industry. The software is top of the line, maybe even ahead of its time. My son's name is everywhere on the agreements, the contracts, the licensing. And here's the worst part. There's a clause in that agreement that prevents continued use unless a new legal rep renegotiates licensing terms. That means we're using this system in violation of the contract. And if we don't stop or renegotiate, we're open to a lawsuit, one that could cripple us financially. The startup already released a newer version of the software, and it's priced astronomically high. My lawyer reviewed the contract and said the way it's worded was no accident. My son made sure that without his signature, we'd bleed money just to stay compliant. It's a legal trap and a damn effective one. And this was just one piece of what he controlled. My lawyer pulled out the internal structure documents, things I hadn't reviewed in years. Everything I originally built, all the policies I'd put in place when I started the company, they're gone, replaced. My son had restructured operations top to bottom. I may still hold majority ownership, but operationally, he had complete control, quiet control, the kind that doesn't show itself until it's too late. I immediately asked my lawyer to set up a meeting with the tech company to renegotiate directly, and instructed our legal team to work on getting the bank to unfreeze as many of our accounts as possible. Then came another gut punch. While reviewing activity, my lawyer noticed the payroll account was still operational. Employees are still being paid, which is good at least, but business has slowed significantly. Clients are pulling out. Leads have gone cold. And then I got a call from someone I never expected, a competitor. He said he wanted to give me a heads up. My company was being shopped around quietly. And guess who he said reached out? My eldest son. He's setting up potential buyers. I was furious. That boy knew exactly what he was doing. He didn't just walk away, he left the fuse burning, and now I'm watching everything I built teeter on collapse. Update 4, the meeting that changed everything. It had taken weeks to secure a meeting with the tech company behind the software critical to the business. In the end, I had to fly directly to their headquarters with my legal team in tow. I thought I was ready for whatever came, but I was wrong. The moment we arrived, we were subjected to an intense security protocol. I was immediately irritated. We were clients, not criminals. When I questioned the treatment, a security officer named Dean stepped in. Calm, authoritative, and immovable, he told us plainly, "This is standard protocol, no exceptions." Frustrated, I warned him they were about to lose a client. Dean didn't flinch. "If you can't follow protocol, feel free to leave. You have no authority here." His words shut down any further protest. My lawyer advised we cooperate. I swallowed my pride and did. Once we were cleared, I told Dean I would be filing a formal complaint. He smiled. "Go ahead." We were then led to a waiting room and kept there for over an hour. By the time they brought us into the main office, I was fuming. But what met us there instantly shifted the tone. We were greeted by 4 professionals. Kay, who introduced himself as a close associate of the CEO, Samantha, a well-known executive in a top marketing firm, Kim, her staff member, and Kat, a corporate liaison. They informed us that the CEO, Andrew, would be joining shortly. It was immediately clear this was not a simple client meeting. This was something far more orchestrated and serious. Andrew entered minutes later, early 30s, sharp suit, lean, striking features. He looked more like a fashion model than a tech executive. Cold eyes, controlled presence. He didn't offer a handshake, didn't acknowledge pleasantries. He simply told his team he would handle the discussion alone. They left, but not before Kat gave him a glance and quietly said, "Take it easy on them." The moment the door closed, the atmosphere changed completely. Andrew didn't speak. He simply gestured for us to explain. My legal team laid everything out. Our position, the licensing issue, the urgency of transferring rights, and my account of the events that led to this moment. I watched him closely. He didn't interrupt, didn't react, just listened. For 30 minutes. At one point, I looked at him and thought, this guy might be unhinged. His silence was unnerving. But when my lawyer began making subtle threats, veiled suggestions about litigation and business disruption, Andrew finally spoke. And when he did, everything changed. He dissected our legal arguments with surgical precision. His grasp of contractual law and intellectual property terms wasn't just competent, it was professional. He didn't need notes. He quoted clauses, precedent, and business code like someone who lived in courtrooms. That's when it hit me. He wasn't just some lucky CEO. He knew what he was doing, and he knew a lot more than I thought. Then he delivered the blow. He referenced the contract my eldest son signed, airtight, exclusive, and non-transferable. He explained the software we were using was a prototype of their now-released flagship platform, and that the licensing rights were tied directly to my son. Any changes would require full renegotiation at the current, much higher rates. But that wasn't the worst part. He pulled out a separate document, one we had apparently overlooked, and pointed to a clause that mentioned a special access code. Without this code, the software would lock us out permanently after a set deadline. Any attempt to bypass it? They'd know, and they'd shut us out remotely. Before ending the meeting, Andrew dropped one final truth. He said he met my eldest son during his travels, that the young man had spoken of wanting to make me proud, that he had seen kindness and sincerity in him, and that's why he trusted him with their prototype. Then Andrew fixed his eyes on me and said, "I know the truth. I don't appreciate being fed lies." We left the meeting, defeated and silent. But just as we stepped into the hallway, a man in a tailored suit approached us. He introduced himself calmly. "Steve." That's when I realized. Steve wasn't just my son's lawyer, he also worked for Andrew. He handed me a thick envelope, formal notice. The software would be deactivated in 1 week. We'd be given time to back up data, then cut off permanently. I didn't say a word as we walked out of that building. The reality was setting in. My eldest son hadn't just outmaneuvered me. He'd surrounded me. Meanwhile, my youngest son, he's been laying low with Angie, barely leaving the house, probably realizing the world outside is getting colder by the day. Update 5. Out of time. Unbelcom. I threw everything I had at it. My legal team worked day and night, digging through every clause in the contract, hoping, praying. There was a loophole we could exploit to keep the software running. Out of desperation, we even brought in a software developer. I didn't tell them where the software came from, just asked them to see if it could be bypassed. At first they were intrigued, then confused. Then they realized who built it. And just like that, they backed away. I told them they wouldn't be paid unless they produced results. They looked me dead in the eye and said they wouldn't accept payment even if I begged them. Too risky, they said. Legal liability, potential criminal charges. The code was like nothing they'd ever seen, more advanced than anything Andrew's company had released publicly. Any tampering wouldn't just fail, it could destroy everything we had. That's when it really hit me. My eldest didn't just install a piece of software. He embedded something untouchable into the core of my company. Out of options, I reached out to Steve, my son's lawyer, and Andrew's as it turns out. I asked if there was any way we could still pay for the software. Premium price, whatever it took. Steve didn't even hesitate. "You lied in that meeting," he said. "This company doesn't do business with clients who use deceit. And even if they were willing to consider it, which I doubt, you'd still need to go through your son." Those words landed hard. I tried reaching out. I dug through old emails, old threads, anything that might still connect us. I sent messages, dozens. Nothing. No response. The lockout deadline is right around the corner now. We managed to secure a temporary replacement, but it's a massive downgrade. It'll affect everything. Workflow, delivery times, client satisfaction. And people are already asking questions. Even worse, I'm watching things fall apart at home. My youngest has been quiet, anxious. Angie, she's been pulling away. I can feel it. She doesn't say it, but I can see it in her eyes. The silence is louder than anything she could say. I used to think I understood my eldest son. I was wrong. He built this trap years ago. Every signature, every clause, every step was part of something larger. I used to be ashamed of how things ended between us. Now I'm afraid of what he's still capable of. Update 6, collapse in slow motion. It's been a couple of months since the downgrade, and the cracks are now gaping holes. The new software barely keeps us operational. We had to license 2 more just to keep up with basic functions. We're hemorrhaging time, money, and clients. Every day feels like triage. The court case is still dragging on, and it's brutal. I finally saw my eldest son in person. He looked different, more confident, colder. I tried to talk to him, anything, even just a nod, but he didn't even entertain it. Not a word. Our legal team tried everything, claimed his actions were vindictive, emotional, even personal. But every argument was shut down, dismantled by Steve and his team with brutal efficiency. It's like they anticipated every move we'd make. Eventually, the judge ruled. We were ordered to compensate my eldest for his contributions and worse, to authorize the sale of his shares, something we'd managed to block before. But not this time. That door is shut. The fallout didn't stop there. The assault case is gutting my youngest. Between legal fees and public embarrassment, he's crumbling. Angie didn't escape either. She and my son are both facing fraud charges tied to the emptied accounts. They've been ordered to return the funds, which we both know we don't have anymore. And now people are distancing themselves. Friends, family, even loyal clients. The silence from them is louder than the court's gavel. I finally caught my eldest alone. I tried again, to explain, to reason, to ask for some kind of peace. He looked at me, right in the eyes, and said calmly, "Let your golden child save your company. You only ever had one son." Then he walked away. I didn't know silence could feel like a death sentence until that moment. Update 7. The fall. It's done. My eldest son's shares were officially sold. Dirt cheap. It stings knowing that something I helped build ended up in the hands of competitors for a fraction of its worth. As part of the court order, the money from the once frozen accounts was released to him. Compensation for his work, his losses, and I suppose, his silence. He didn't waste time either. Built his own company. Fast, clean, efficient. I've seen whispers of it in the industry already. Smart branding, sharp execution. I wouldn't be surprised if some of our old clients have already jumped ship. The competitor that bought the shares is slowly bleeding us out, transferring our accounts and clients to their main office. My company, what's left of it, is being dismantled piece by piece, and I can't stop it. As for my youngest, he has a criminal record now for the assault. No jail time, but the stain is there. He's ruined, angry, defeated. One night he broke down, drunk and sobbing. He admitted it, that he envied his brother so much, hated the shadow he was in, that he took his fiancée just to feel like he won for once. But he lost everything instead. I wanted to send him to rehab, but I don't even have the money anymore. Everything's gone or spoken for. Angie? She disappeared. Took whatever she could before she vanished. Her wages are being garnished now, legally ordered to pay back over $50,000. It'll take years. I heard through someone that she broke down completely. She didn't mean to hurt anyone, but intent doesn't undo the damage. And us? We're alone. No friends, no family left who want anything to do with us. The silence is permanent now. No calls, no visits, just reminders. And me? I realize now that I failed both of my sons. I gave one everything and took the other for granted. I used him, pushed him aside when it suited me, and when he came back, he did it not to be welcomed, but to destroy everything that had hurt him. And he succeeded. He didn't care if he became the villain. He just wanted us to feel what he did. Powerless. Final update. The end of the line. It's been a couple of years now. I ended up selling what was left of my company to a competitor. There was no saving it. They were surprisingly gracious, offering me a chance to retire, not in comfort, but at least with some dignity. My health had been deteriorating for a while and I knew I couldn't handle the pressure anymore. The company is now completely rebranded under their name. The legacy I spent years building no longer exists. Ironically, they're now using an updated version of the same software I once dismissed and tried to control, the very product my eldest son helped acquire for our business, back when he still believed in us. I didn't realize back then how pivotal his role had been, or how badly I had taken his efforts for granted. My youngest son never bounced back. The fallout hit him hardest. He became an alcoholic. I'm the one paying for his treatment now. He can barely hold a job, and it's like the life was drained out of him. Angie disappeared. Whatever she could take, she did. Her wages are still being garnished, and she owes over $50,000. Money she may never repay. My youngest admitted to me once, in tears and too drunk to stand, that he always resented his brother. He took his fiancée out of jealousy, not love, and now he's lost everything. And my eldest, I saw him once on television, ringside at an MMA fight. He looked happy, confident, surrounded by the same friends I saw in that conference room the day Andrew walked in. Sitting next to him was a beautiful brunette who reminded me painfully of his mother, graceful, steady, warm. He never made a grand statement. He never came after me publicly. He didn't have to. He simply moved on and built something better, methodical, quiet, unforgiving. A son who once just wanted his father's approval walked away and made something far greater than I ever did. Now I have nothing left. No business, no reputation, no family unit. Just a lesson I learned too late. Don't mistake silence for weakness. Don't take loyalty for granted, and never turn your back on the ones who believe in you the most. Maybe someone out there will hear this and not make the same mistake.
What would you do in this situation? Let us know in the comments. If this story had you on the edge of your seat, smash that like button and subscribe for more jaw-dropping family drama, shocking betrayals, and the revenge stories you won't believe.